Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 160.
On Now You Know.
But hang on.
Wait a minute, are we?
I think we're in
We're in a car.
a Tesla.
We're what?
We're in a Model 3.
How'd we get here?
It was pretty nice.
Wow. Our show is brought to you, as always, by our amazing Patreon patrons, who not only support the show,
But they get some awesome perks, including the Patreon bonus stories, exclusive t-shirts, signed posters, mugs, coasters, hats, monthly live stream shout-outs, end credits, on-air questions, polls, a Discord server, so many different things for our Patrons, because they are the lifeblood of this channel.
and as Amazon associates, we earn from qualifying purchases. Our link is down below in the show notes.
And just in case you don't know, that link only works for 24 hours. So if you're buying something on Amazon, you have to go to the link every day. I know it sucks, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
And we're supported by ecoware.us. We've got new designs uploaded every week, including this one. Mm-hmm. We carbon offset the manufacture, shipping, and life cycle of your purchase, and we plant a tree for every order.
Right. And it's not just t-shirts. We also have sweatshirts, we have bags, and lots of other products, pillows, everything.
All right, version 10 is here.
Yeah, so version 10 is the latest and greatest in Tesla's over-the-air software updates for its cars. It's being rolled out to Teslas throughout the US, and there are so many cool features in version 10. We made a video about it as soon as I got the update, basically. People might be wondering, why is this video taking place at night? It's because I got it that night. Wanted to show you guys as soon as possible for people who didn't have it or people who were a little nervous trying some of the features.
Yeah, and we showed them all to you, Smart Summon, where Jesse showed you how it works to call your car to you.
Yeah.
And then he went through all of the other features that version 10 has so you can see how they work. So that was really cool.
Yeah. So just a little refresher. We got Smart Summon. We got Theater Mode, which includes YouTube. So you could be watching this show right now. If you have version 10, you could watch the show in your car.
That's so cool.
You can sign into YouTube in your car, so it's your YouTube.
And you were saying that you thought the quality was better than when you watch it at home.
Okay, well, that's for Netflix. That's because my TV at home is really crappy. It has a really bad audio. It vibrates. The whole TV vibrates. So whenever anyone is talking, it's just a lot of... And so listening to it in my car with this amazing sound system is awesome. We were watching Mad Men, and it was I'm so much more into this show because I'm sitting right here. The characters are right in front of me. Yeah, so it has Netflix, it has YouTube, it has Hulu. It also has Tesla tutorials. That's not that exciting, but it is cool that they are in one place.
Not to mention the new game Cuphead is in there.
Yes, so that's a kind of like a side-scrolling action adventure-y kind of game.
And you can play with 2 players.
Yes,
by the way.
you just need 2 controllers, and you can't play the game without a controller. So you can't play it with the steering wheel. I don't even want to think about how hard it would be to play with the steering wheel.
And we've got the link down below to the controller that Jesse found on Amazon that works in his car if you want to go.
Yes, it's pretty cheap. You can obviously get much nicer controllers. I'm just cheap. So, also it came out with karaoke, which is karaoke for your car. So this has turned pretty much all Teslas into the perfect date mobile. You got Netflix and chill mode. You've got romance mode, which it already had. You've got karaoke on demand, basically any song you really want to sing to. It's not every song in the world. You're not going to, your obscure band that you have never heard of before, that's not on there. But all the greatest hits that you're going to want to belt out in the car is on there. And then you get to, after the movie that you watch in a movie theater, which I don't know why you do that anymore, you can summon your car to you, which is just super duper cool. Now, I do want to throw a caveat onto this. The Smart Summon is not some kind of a magic driver. It's not going to avoid all forms of accidents.
You jumped in front of it, didn't hit you.
I did jump in front of it, and I don't recommend you do that because I was excited. I was in the moment. If it had hit me, it was only going 3 or 4 miles an hour. I think it would have been fine. Maybe a couple bruises, but it's not going to work perfectly in all cases, especially where other humans are involved. So I would recommend that you don't just use it all the time.
So here's a couple videos that were posted online of possible near misses in the Model 3 that are being used in Smart Summon. And I think it's important to point out that in both these cases, it's really not the car's fault. So in the first case, someone was backing out of a parking space and wasn't looking, and that can happen to anyone in any parking lot. And then the second case, it was being summoned across, a street that cars were going very fast on. And that's not the whole point of Smart Summon. It's supposed to be used in a parking lot, and it should be used, I would argue, for now at least, in very quiet parking lots.
Right. I don't think that you should just be like, oh, it's a perfect driver. You're supposed to be supervising it. You're supposed to be like, in that last case, I think that guy should have looked over to the right, seen the car coming, and been like, I'm going to play it safe, because it's a dead man switch.
Yeah, can you explain that?
So when you are doing Smart Summon, you're holding down the button. And so while you're holding down the button, it's going to be Smart Summoning to you or wherever you're sending it. But as soon as you let go of the button, the car's going to stop. It's going to slam on the brakes. It's going to stop. Now, it's only going 6 miles an hour, so slamming on the brakes isn't that much of a big deal. But it's going to stop. And I think that that's important because it means that at any time, you can stop the car. It doesn't mean that your car won't get hit if you release the button, because obviously people are stupid. They don't look backwards a lot of the times when they're backing out of car spaces and stuff like that. So it's not perfect, mostly because it lives in a non-perfect world full of humans that are going to hit this car.
There was a lot of misreporting last week about a Fremont police Model S that supposedly couldn't continue a high-speed chase because of a low battery.
Now, the reason that this story was picked up was that in a lot of different places, you can actually listen to police scanners, which means that you can actually listen to what the police are talking back and forth about. And so a journalist was, listening to the chase through the police scanner, and he heard at one point that the pursuing officer that was in the Model S was running out of battery.
Right.
And shortly thereafter, the chase was called off. And so the story that came out was that the Model S ran out of battery, and so that's why they called off the chase.
And that's not what happened.
No, the chase was actually called off for safety reasons. The car that they were chasing had just passed another car in the median, and that was kind of a red flag to the officers that it was time to call off the chase because of public safety.
And also, the police officer whose car it was that morning hadn't actually charged it up the night before. It was driving around with a low battery, and that could happen to anyone, whether they're driving an ICE car or a battery car, if you don't pay attention to whether you refueled it properly or not.
Right. The car had enough battery to continue the chase. He was just saying that he wasn't going to be able to continue it, ad infinitum.
Now, the Fremont police issued a statement. This situation, while embarrassing, is no different from cases where a patrol car runs low or even dry of fuel. Over the last 6 months, data on range, performance, equipment, and other elements has been gathered by officers through its use as a patrol vehicle. During this time, we have documented 2 police pursuits where the vehicle met and exceeded expectations.
Now, it's important to keep in mind that the range of the Model S that they are using has a 220 to 240 mile range. And during an 11-hour shift, they usually drive between 70 and 90 miles. So the range is completely fine, right? They're never normally going to be running out of battery during a normal shift. So, it was kind of a mixture of two things. First, you had a police chase, and secondly, you had someone who didn't fully charge the battery.
Well, and thirdly, you have a media that likes to try and find any reason to put Tesla into a story in a negative light,
right?
Instead of actually finding out what happened. So the Bolinger B1 and B2 has been unveiled, and here are the pictures, and we've got some really cool stats for you.
So it is a dual motor design. It has 614 horsepower, 668 foot-pounds of torque. It can go 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds.
What?
Yes, that box of a car, that brick of a car can go that. 100-mile-an-hour top speed, which is even more unbelievable. Yeah. It is a 2-speed gearbox, which is interesting. So it's a lot like the Taycan. So it is, high and a low-speed gearbox. It is a 15-inch ground clearance. It has 10-inch wheel travel. So just in case you want to go off-road, apparently you can just climb a mountain if you wanted to. It is a 5,201-pound payload capacity, a 7,500-pound towing capacity. It has a 120 kilowatt-hour battery.
Wow.
It has patented storage, pass-through door, so you can actually stick really, really long things all the way through the length of the truck.
I love that feature.
That feature alone would be like, yes, please. For anyone who's ever built anything, for anyone who's ever had to strap, 12-foot 2x4s to the roof of whatever you were driving, putting it just a little bit lower would be a godsend.
Only problem is we're going to have to wait for the coming months to find out more details about pricing and production.
But overall, these are 2 very impressive trucks.
Yeah. So an email was sent to Tesla employees last Thursday from Elon, reportedly stating, "We have a shot at achieving our first 100,000 vehicle delivery quarter, which is an incredibly exciting milestone for our company." Now, Musk states in the email that net orders are tracking to reach about 110,000 for the quarter.
This is important because many bear analysts were estimating sales of around 60,000 because of the diminished tax credit. Just a little refresher on that. You used to get a $7,500 federal tax credit. Once Tesla sold its 200,000th car, there would be a 2-quarter kind of wait, and then the tax credit would get cut in half. Then there would be another 2 quarters. The tax credit would get cut in half again. We're currently in that stage, and after 2 quarters, the tax credit goes away completely.
Right, and a lot of analysts were like, "Oh, that's the end of Tesla."
Right, because that's $3,000 really makes a difference. Clearly, it does not. 100,000 cars would be a record for Tesla.
Take a look at this chart here from hypercharts.co, which is a fantastic charting company. And you can see that if we did hit 100 or 110,000 cars delivered, we would be right in line with a growing delivery.
Right. You can see that the Q1 deliveries of this year were a little weird. There was that fluctuation downward. But as you can see, if you ignore that quarter, and if you take a look at Q3, Q4 of last year, and then Q2, and you take this quarter's projected, maybe it'll be 100,000 mark, that's growth. Now, keep in mind that this is without the Chinese Gigafactory up and running and producing really competitively priced Model 3s in China, which means, no tariffs and anything like that. That's going to be huge, and we're seeing this growth even without it.
Right.
So, this could be super, super exciting for Tesla.
And speaking of Tesla Shanghai, news from Ma Jun, who's the head of St. Gobain Securit Company, which is a local glass supplier for the Shanghai Gigafactory. He states mass production is anticipated from October 14th, together with the output of Model 3 vehicles. Our annual output is expected to reach 120 million yuan, which is $17 million. And at the next stage, we may increase our investment and produce for the Model Y. Now, why is that a big deal?
Because October 14th is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but what is he talking about? They're making glass for the Model 3.
Yeah, so if they need to be producing glass for the Model 3, it's because the Gigafactory is going to be producing Model 3s.
On October 14th?
October 14th. It seems like they're going to need glass. The only way you're going to need glass is if you have Tesla Model 3s that don't have glass.
I thought we wouldn't be producing cars till December.
Right. They said that they would start production the end of the year of 2019. They didn't say October 14th.
Yeah, now look at this. There's a completed body in white coming out of the factory. What is a body in white?
So this is just the body of the car. It's basically just metal. There's no paint. There's no glass. There's no seats. There's no computers. There's no battery. It's just the body. It's just the, steel and aluminum construction.
But why is that a big deal?
Well, it means that they probably have a production line that's starting to get up and running.
But that's crazy. Do you realize that 8 months ago, this was a muddy field?
It was a muddy field. And I was looking at the field 8 months ago and I was going geesh, wow, it's going to be a while before we see a factory here. Now there's a factory there. It's fully built. Look at it.
And as Vincent says here, in the vid, you are able to see the phase 2 of the Gigafactory 3 development construction for the battery production workshop, which is going very smoothly. So what's he talking about?
What he's saying is not only are they making cars at the Gigafactory 3, they are also going to be making batteries.
Wow.
Which means that you're going to be making the batteries that go in the cars, everything you would want.
Wow.
That's amazing. So Volvo just released a tease for the electric XC40. So the XC40 is a very popular Volvo car, and Volvo just came out and said, with the introduction of the forthcoming fully electric Volvo XC40 SUV next month, Volvo Cars is not just launching its first fully electric car. In true Volvo tradition, it is also introducing one of the safest cars on the road, despite a fresh set of challenges presented by the absence of an internal combustion engine.
What?
What?
There's challenges because...
Oh no! What about the big block of steel in the front of the car that would come in and hit everybody? Well, it's going to be so much harder to design it safer now. What? What kind of a crazy question? There's nothing safe about having an internal combustion engine in your car. Now you can have a big strong battery pack in the base of the car, which means that can absorb the impact and not the passengers.
I think the challenge is they don't know how to make a car without a big engine in it.
I mean, that's crazy. All right, but I'm a little confused here. So I can buy this car now?
No, this is just a tease.
So so now I can buy it.
No, this is a tease which comes prior to the unveiling, which should not be confused with the reveal, but then after that comes the pre-released camouflaged leaked images. Oh, and then there's usually close-up official released images of specific body parts like headlights and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then
I can buy the car?
No, then usually there's like a 6-month backtrack where they delay things because they have problems. But then there's usually a release date teaser, which is followed by an announcement of the release date, which is then followed by the pre-order exclusive party, which is then followed by the general public unveiling, and then the reveal, followed by the release, and then sometime later you might be able to find one at a dealership. Okay. Is that clear?
So
you got it, right?
So it's before. So this what was the last thing?
So according to Volvo, the electric XC40 should first be shown to the public on October 16th.
So me or anyone from the public can buy it on October 16th.
Maybe.
Okay, well that's confusing. I feel more confused than when we started.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's how most car companies work. But speaking of being confused, I've been confused for the past few months about Starship.
Right.
And just the other night, Elon gave a big Starship update, and I thought we would fill you guys in on what we've learned.
Yes.
So let's start with a tweet from the SpaceX Twitter page. They say, 11 years ago today, we launched our first successful mission. To date, we've completed 78 launches and have developed the world's only operational, reusable, orbital-class rockets and spacecraft, capable of launching to space, returning to Earth, and flying again. So check this out here. See this picture here?
Yep.
This is a Starship on the left.
Yep.
And to give it some scale, that is their first Falcon 1 on the right.
So it's not the Falcon 9, that's Falcon 1. That was their first rocket that they ever launched.
Yes. So Saturday night, Elon gave a Starship update, and he started by talking about Falcon 1. Now, can you remind us what Falcon 1 is?
So Falcon 1 was the first rocket that SpaceX ever actually got to launch into orbit. And it was super, super critical that they did that. Basically, they were on their fourth launch. All 3 previous launches had been unsuccessful. SpaceX was out of investors. If they didn't get this rocket off the ground and into space, they were dead in the water in terms of a business financially. And luckily, it was successful, and it actually got into orbit, which kept the whole company alive.
So the amazing thing here is that Starship there on the left is going to, according to Elon, fly in 1 to 2 months up to 20 kilometers and then come back and land.
Now, it's only been 1.5 years since Falcon Heavy launched.
Yeah, and Elon said, I never thought that would happen.
Which is kind of an amazing thing. You know, you set out with a goal, and yet you don't even think that goal is even feasible, and yet you accomplish it. It's amazing.
And then a year and a half later, you're launching a ship which can potentially lift 150 tons of stuff up into orbit.
Right.
And then return home.
Right. Now, I think one of the cool things about Starship is its engines. It has 3 sea-level Raptor engines, which means that it works well in the atmosphere of the Earth.
Okay.
And it has 3 fixed vacuum engines, which work much better in space.
Yeah, and so those 3 sea-level engines are gimbaled. They can turn up to 15 degrees to maneuver the rocket. The other cool thing is Elon talked about how he built Starship. It's made out of 301 stainless steel. Why did he want to use that?
He talked about aluminum and composites. They may be lighter, but you need more of them. So actually, steel is going to be the best. It's going to actually be the lightest because you need less steel because it's so darn strong. Mm-hmm. And it's almost twice as strong when it's at cryogenic temperatures, which is the temperatures you have to store the fuel at.
And now when it's returning to Earth and it's going through the hot atmosphere, the high melting temperature of steel, which is 1,500 degrees Celsius, means that you don't have to shield the leeward side of the rocket, and there's less shielding that you need on the windward side.
Right. And steel is much, much cheaper. Carbon fiber costs $130,000 a ton, whereas stainless steel only costs $2,500 a ton.
Yeah, it only costs 2%.
Yes. So basically, they don't need any sort of factory or roof over their head. They can weld it right outside, almost like it's a building.
I know, it's crazy. Now, explain to me this Super Heavy. I get so confused because there's Falcon Heavy, but that's different. Super Heavy, what does Super Heavy do?
Super Heavy is going to be the booster that gets Starship into orbit. Basically, it's really difficult to launch anything from the Earth. It's a big gravity well, which means you need a lot of propellant, a lot of energy to get you up out of the atmosphere and out of the gravity well, zipping around the Earth. So you need a really, really big rocket. And Super Heavy is aptly named. It's really big. It'll have up to 37 Raptor engines.
Wow.
It'll be 68 meters long, and it'll carry 3,300 tons of propellant.
Wow.
So
now, fully stacked,
yes,
it's going to be 118 meters from Starship all the way to the ground.
And so the amazing thing is that Super Heavy is fully reusable. And so just like the Falcon 9, which, takes the Dragon capsule all the way up into orbit, then, turns around, comes back down to Earth and lands, the Super Heavy is going to do the same thing, only it's much, much bigger. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and then Elon talked about the fact that Starship can get refueled up in orbit. So you turn another Starship around, refuel it, and then it can keep going on. And he said that basically they've already learned everything they need to know how to do that by learning how to dock with the space station, which he said is even harder.
And so the last point about Starship, from a technical perspective, is that it's going to be landing back on Earth in a really, really funky way.
Yeah.
We've seen the Falcon boosters come back down, do the boost back burn and then land right on top of a drone ship, landing pad, whatever. What Starship is going to do is it's going to kind of belly flop into the atmosphere. He said at a 60-degree angle, so you're going to be coming through the atmosphere. They want a lot of drag to slow down the rocket. Then it's going to be coming down, and then at the last second, it's going to... They showed an animation of it, and it's wild.
Why is that so hard?
Mostly because it's never been done before. I mean, the Falcon 9, when it's coming back down for re-entry, is just sort of, falling like a little pencil through the air. This is going to be flying like this, and it's going to need to... Like, that's complicated.
And it's coming up soon if Elon's right.
So I'm very excited to see that. And that's kind of what those fins are for. It's basically falling like a skydiver, like coming back into the atmosphere. I mean, that's just crazy.
Now, Elon said this is the fastest path to self-sustaining cities on Mars, which is a fundamental thing for humans. So, I mean, he's thinking way beyond where we're thinking.
Yes.
So then Elon was talking about the fact that if human consciousness had just taken 10% longer to evolve than it did, and you can imagine 10% is easy one way or the other to go, then we would have already burned up in the sun's expanded heat that is coming, right? I mean, the Earth is going to burn up in several 100 million years, and if there had just been a slight change in how we developed, we never would have gotten to consciousness.
Right. And so the way that Elon looks at this is, the consciousness that we have, you and I have, is a miracle. Like, we don't even fully understand it. It's so jaw-droppingly amazing. And he's saying that, like, if it took a little bit longer to develop, it wouldn't exist at all. It took millions and millions and millions and millions of years to develop, and we're just so lucky to have it. And so he wants to preserve consciousness.
Right. I mean, he said the window is now open, and it may not be open for long.
And what he's talking about there is the fact that we need to escape Earth, within a few million years. So it's, we kind of have time. But the window has just opened, meaning that we actually have the technology to carry us off of the surface of the Earth and onto another planet like Mars, which would be a little bit further outside
I
of
just
Earth.
want to stop you for a second. The window is just open means that all of us watching right now, we are super duper lucky.
Right.
Like this, we may be one of the only generations of people to be part of this window. It may not be open for long. When it's not millions of years, it may be hundreds of years,
right,
or less.
It may be decades.
Right. So, I mean, that's why Elon is jumping on this and not being like, well, in a million years, they'll figure it out. He wants to figure it out now.
And I think that a lot of people take the procrastinators approach where it's like, oh, the due date isn't for several million years. I don't need to worry about that. And it's like, yeah, but you don't know what's going to happen in those millions of years. Like, you really are going to just leave it up to fate to be like, well, I think that my great-great-great-great-grandchildren will figure out how to get to Mars. I don't need to worry about it. And I think that that's a really foolish approach to take. People who were born 150 years ago didn't get to be a part of this.
Right.
They didn't get to look forward to this. We have the technology to leave Earth and to spread consciousness among the stars. And that is what makes Elon so excited and makes him get up in the morning.
Let's talk about Elon's timeline. He's talking about 1 to 2 months for Mark 1 and a booster to get to orbit of Earth. And then he's talking about starting Mark 3 right away. Now, what is Mark 3?
Mark III is going to be the next iteration of the Starship design. He knows that he needs to iterate. He knows that this thing is not going to be carrying the first, passengers to Mars. They need to iterate. They need to make sure that this stuff works.
Now, thanks to Mr. Mizawa, who's going to be taking the first flight around the moon, I think there's a lot of money coming in to help SpaceX do this. Now, let's just talk about the speed with which Elon is planning this, all right? They're building a whole stack of boosters and Starships at both the Boca Chica location and at Cape Canaveral, according to Elon. Mark III and beyond is going to be made differently than this one was made. How are those going to be made?
So you may have seen the Starship behind Elon during the presentation. It looks almost like a quilt, like it's a patchwork of steel. What they're going to do for the Mark III is make it out of a coil of steel. So it'll almost look like a paper towel roll, but made out of steel. And it'll just have that one seam weld carrying it spirally all the way up the rocket.
Yeah, he said that the rate of building the ships will be quite crazy by space standards. Mark II will be built in about 2 months' time. Mark III will be a little more complicated. I guess it'll take 3 months' time. Mark IV, he's allotting 5 months to build it. Then they will go to orbit with Mark IV or 5. Now, they're going to reach orbit in less than 6 months, according to Elon.
Right.
What?
And he actually gave a little caveat. He said, this is accurate to within a few months, which, we're talking 6 months. I guess maybe it could happen sooner, but it'll probably happen later.
Right.
Let's say it's 8 months. Pfft, that's amazing.
I know. And he said the first crewed missions could leave either from Boca Chica or from Cape Canaveral, and they're having like an internal competition between the two, which is kind of cool.
One of the cool things about Starship is that it can actually be fueled on Mars. They can produce the fuel out of the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and the water from the ice on the planet to produce the fuel using solar power.
That's so cool.
It's really good that he has a solar company, and then it's like, oh, how do you get the ice from the soil of Mars? Oh, wouldn't it be good to bring a boring machine, which Elon says that they're going to be doing?
I know.
And he says Tesla's work on Mars, which they kind of do.
Yeah. Now, to build these Starships, they're going to need about 100 Raptor engines. Now, to put this in perspective, right now it takes SpaceX about 8 to 10 days to make one Raptor engine. But he said that in a couple months, they should be building one every 2 days. And then by Q1 of 2020, they should be building a Raptor engine every day.
Wow.
He potentially sees people flying next year. Now, the total Earth capacity right now for getting stuff into space is about 200 to 300 tons. That's if you take every rocket we have on Earth. That's all the capacity we have.
So that's the payload.
Right.
Okay.
So now Elon says that he's going to build a fleet of Starships that will have 1,000 times more capacity. That is what is needed to build a city on Mars. And if you put this in perspective, if you're like, well, that's not possible, Elon's not going to be able to do any of this, keep in mind that that Starship behind him was built in 5 months. There was nothing there beforehand. And to do this, Elon uses a recursive improvement on scheduling. He says there's a tendency to complicate things. So when he has meetings with his employees, he says the best part is no part. What did you undesign? Just delete it. And he says his new mantra is long is wrong, tight is right.
I don't quite get it. Like, too long-term things are wrong and you need everything has to be tight deadlines?
Yes.
Interesting.
And it must be working because look what he's done so far.
Right. It's so exciting to be thinking about traveling to Mars when it's been years, like my whole life. I've been waiting. NASA's been like, we might go to Mars someday. And I'm like, yes, let's go to Mars. And they're like, we're thinking about it in the future. Yep. We're going to go. And I'm like, let's go. And it hasn't happened. And Elon's just like, we're going to go to Mars and we're going to build a city.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so exciting.
All right, it's time for the lightning round.
Here we go.
So the big Friday strike was on September 20th. We remember that over 4 million protesters around the world protested for climate change. Then again, last Friday on the 27th, there was another protest, and it turns out there's quite a big turnout.
People took to the streets again and protested in Geneva, Washington, D.C., Rome, South Korea, Germany, and more. There was lots and lots of places where school strikes happened.
Right, because the whole point of this is to strike every Friday, not just once.
It's to be disruptive. It's to like, hey, what the hell is going on? Why are you protesting? And hopefully the idea should be, instead of being like, stop protesting, they should be like, what do you guys need? What do you want? And it should be like, oh, climate's important? Hey, yeah, I agree with you because I'm a human that lives on Earth. Let's change it. That's what we're trying to do. And we want to make sure that you guys are doing that. Striking as much as possible, causing disruption and pushing the envelope, pushing people to change.
Speaking of change, there's a change coming in Ireland. According to the Irish Times, new building rules, which will take effect in November, will require all new homes to be twice as efficient as current standards and to have electric vehicle charging points on all new buildings.
This includes existing buildings where 25% or more of the building is being renovated. Just having the ability to charge your car at your house means you're more likely to do it.
Exactly. Many people are asking, especially in Europe, when will the V10 over-the-air update roll out for my car? And so this tweet might help you. Elon said Tesla V10 just started rolling out to all US Tesla owners with full self-driving option and advanced download selected in vehicle software settings. So before we go on, what does he mean by advanced download selection?
So if you go into your menu on your Tesla and you go to software and you kind of scroll down a little bit, it'll say standard or advanced. What you want to do is hit advanced, which means that you're going to get the latest software updates. Standard is for people who are a little more, relaxed about the updates.
So if you want it, make sure you select that. Now, Pauline said, do you know when it will be available in Germany? And Elon said, we look for rare corner cases issued with a limited release U.S. build, then expand internationally as we receive approval from regulatory authorities. So soon, but hard to say exactly. And then if you don't have full self-driving, you still can get version 10. And Brendan asked, any news on when it will be available for owners without full self-driving? And Elon said,
about a week will include slight improvements based on initial user feedback. Now, keep in mind that if you don't have full self-driving, you're not going to get Smart Summon, and the price for full self-driving is probably going to go up very soon.
Depessoir Doley owned a gas station in Maryland since 1997. He was unhappy with how gas companies structured their contracts, limiting suppliers and extending contracts when a certain volume wasn't sold. So then he talked with the public works manager for the city of Tacoma Park, who suggested that he speak with Electric Vehicle Institute. And the icing on the cake was when Doley talked about it with his 17-year-old daughter. He said, my daughter, who is 17, she is the one who convinced me after I told her that I was going to talk to the Electric Vehicle Institute guys.
So Doley closed his gas pumps and installed 4 200-kilowatt charging stations. Drivers can sit inside his convenience store and monitor the charging while they wait for the cars to fill up with electricity.
He said, you notice there are not too many electric vehicles on the road, so it's not something that I expect to become rich overnight or something like that, but it's a good cause and good for the environment. Now, the project was jointly funded by the Electric Vehicle Institute and the Maryland Energy Administration, which provided a grant of $786,000. So good on him for doing this, and also get in there early and do this. Like if you own a gas station,
Switch it.
And while we're at it, a Norwegian gas station just did the same thing. The Circle K at Alexander Kielland's Plass gas station in Oslo just replaced their gas pumps with electric chargers too.
Hakon Stikstrud, the director of e-mobility at Circle K, said, when our customers' needs change, we also have to change. We have initiated a comprehensive development of fast chargers and start where the need is greatest.
Now, for the first time in the history of Norway this year, it may be that there's more electric cars sold than ICE cars. So Greta gets help from the Terminator.
So the Terminator came and actually helped me, rappelled down from a helicopter. He's like, Greta, come with me if you want to live. And he's shooting up a bunch of oil goons or something.
Well, the Terminator's a make-believe character. I meant the guy who plays it, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're saying the Terminator isn't real?
No, Terminator's not real.
But he saved us from the future robots.
In the movie, yeah. Anyway, Arnold reached out to Greta and said that she could use his Model 3 to get around the United States and Canada. Isn't that nice?
That is nice. Maybe he's another Terminator.
Chairman Takeshi Uchiyamada has announced that Toyota is preparing to launch the second generation of the hydrogen fuel cell Mirai next year. And if that wasn't enough, Toyota's European head of sales and marketing, Matt Harrison, said, by the third generation, we fully expect fuel cell costs to be comparable with hybrids. We believe fuel cell vehicles have a huge potential. Okay, why is it that hydrogen is so stupid?
Oh my God. I mean, there's so many different things. First of all, it's just inefficient. If you have a solar panel, which is the only means you should be producing electricity besides wind, you're going to be throwing away half of the energy to perform electrolysis on water to gather the hydrogen.
Okay.
Then you have this very low density, hard to transport, hard to carry around gas that you have to compress a lot. So you have to compress it, which is, again, inefficiency. Mm-hmm. And then it leaks really easily because it's the smallest atom in the universe. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's very pernicious and get through things and leak. And it's super duper explosive.
All right, it's time for our video contributor story of the week. What do we got?
We have Patrick from My Electric Earth's YouTube channel with his reporting on an electric ferry.
This morning we're going to take the ferry over the Sound to Helsingör. And this ferry is really unique because it's an electric ferry. Yes, the ferry company 4C that runs the ferries to Denmark have made a huge investment in 2 of their ferries, equipping them with batteries and very fast charging in both ports, where they are charging the batteries while loading passengers, cars and freight. The trip over Öresund takes only 20 minutes and the ferry runs every 30 minutes. The charging mechanism is totally automated, with a robot arm plugging in and out the ferry while at port. This is a mega charger. The ferry is charged during approximately 9 minutes in Sweden and 5 in Denmark. The ferry's battery capacity is 4.1 megawatt hour. That's a lot. I think that it's fantastic that the technical innovation have came so far that this is possible. Well, so I'm on board the ferry and you can hear, listen, it's completely quiet and there is no vibration. It's extremely smooth ride with this electric ferry. It's cool, isn't it? Electric ferry with an electric car. They have the possibility to use conventional ship fuel if the electric system fails. But looking at the chimney of the ferry, it haven't been used many times. One thing that I noticed was that the alarm of the Model 3 went off several times during this short calm trip, just from the movements of the ship. So the alarm must be sensitive.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Stop the presses.
What? We weren't running any presses.
Did you see him?
This is a YouTube channel.
Did you see him speaking on the ferry? How quiet it was?
I'm not convinced that he didn't just walk into a building nearby and just say it was the ferry.
We've all been on ferries, right? Okay.
It's just
and
this
you know
constant-
that it's just like
It's just like
it's
the
not
whole time.
fun. You just
No.
want to be off the ferry.
You're just like, oh boy, right.
This
that
was
crazy.
totally silent.
That's so cool, dude. I mean, it's so nice to look for. Like, imagine if we had electric ferries, and then they're like, "You can't have electric ferries. You need to have gas-powered ferries." And then you like get on it, and it was like, and you're like, "Well, we have to do it." Isn't it nice that the better thing is also better?
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Patrick. He has a great YouTube channel. Go check it out.
All right, it is now time for the Patreon bonus stories for the uninitiated. This is where our Patreon patrons who support us for $1 or more a month will get to watch a bunch more stories. Our Patreons help support us so much, and we want to give them this extra bonus content. We're going to go record that, and we'll be right back. All
right, it's time for the Patreon shout-outs. These are people who support us at the $5 or more level, and they get their names on the end credits at the end of the show. Here we go. Let's see if we can do it with no mess-ups.
Here we go. Thank you to Ronald Heaver,
Jane Sorensen,
Eric Klett,
Robert,
Eric Blake,
Robert Lang,
Yoon Ho G,
William Michael Zazinski.
So do long pauses count as mess-ups?
No, I think they're good.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week, and we got quite a few here. The first one is Michael says to Elon, when can we expect Tesla in Slovakia?
And Elon says, hoping to open in Slovakia, Croatia, Serbia, and most of Eastern Europe early next year. Finally, we will do Nikola Tesla proud by having his cars in his countries of origin.
Here's an Area 51 meme from Elon. He loves these, as you know. Some secrets are too dangerous to be free. And Elon said, if advanced AI beyond basic bots hasn't been applied to manipulate social media, it won't be long before it is.
He went on to say, anonymous bot swarms deserve a closer examination. If they're evolving rapidly, something's up.
That's ominous.
Thank you for the warning.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about it. I'm not like some person who's going to be like, well, let me just get my... I'm just going to hack it all the way, I guess. I don't know.
I think he's telling you beware of social media and what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm never on it, so that's helpful. And I suggest you don't do it either.
This tweet really surprised me. It's from Elon about Herbert Diess. Herbert Diess was hired by VW in July of 2015. They hired him away from BMW. And then in September of 2015, VW admitted to the diesel cheating scandal. Now, Diess is now VW's boss, but he seems to have Elon's support. So Elon said, Herbert Diess is doing more than any big car maker to go electric. The good of the world should come first. For what it's worth, he has my support.
Now, I think that this is kind of double-sided from Elon, because on the one hand, he's saying that Herbert Diess has his support, but on the other end, he is absolutely cutting him at the knees when it comes to car sales, because he's taken away a huge market share away from VW, especially in the Model 3's market share category.
This tweet from Steve Jobs' ghost, Elon, option for remote hazard lights on when using Smart Summon? Here are people asking for this to help make people more aware when there's no driver, or maybe a special light pattern separate from hazard.
Elon said, makes sense, and then Elon went on to say, special light pattern, but no hazards as they're too shrill, seems right.
So you Smart Summon your car, and you need some way of telling like people in the parking lot that this car has no driver in it?
I mean, I think that it would be good if this is optional, because I don't want this. I want people to look over and be like, I want them to really be like surprised. And also, I mean, if you were going to do anything, I think you should have autopilot, like from the movie Airplane. That's like right up Elon's alley. You know that's right up his alley. Maybe he would show that on screen, like autopilot. That would, because I mean, that's actually feasible, not having autopilot emerge from the steering wheel. But
Can you imagine if you look over in the parking lot and there's like a
I think that would be much better than lights. I don't know. I don't want people to, as soon as they know that it's
they're going to cut you off.
They're going to cut me off. Yeah. They're going to jump in front of it. Right. They're going to start yelling. They're going to call the police. Like, I would much rather than be shocked and stunned, and then I drive away and they're like, this guy's from the future. Like, that's the look we should be going for, not like, everyone look out, my car's coming to me. Careful now.
Smart Summon is like making every Tesla into a Model X.
Yes, that's something that we noticed, because when we first had the Model X and you'd open the doors, and you still do this today, everyone just goes, this car is cool. And I can tell because the doors are really cool.
What's really cool about summoning your car now is that kids get it immediately. Like a lot of older folks are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. But kids are like, there's no driver in that car. Right. Like they just, I don't know if it's because they're at the right level. Like they're at more eye level with the driver. I don't know, but they get it. And when they start saying it, then their parents are like, no, that can't be true, Timmy. And then like, wait, what? Check this new technology out. Nick Fierro says, when will Teslas have a low speed noise and will that affect Summon? Steve Jobs' ghost said cars built after September 1st have it. And Elon said,
we're going to use the pedestrian pink noise speaker to talk to people and create customized horn sounds. Like, I beg your pardon, but would you be so kind as to allow me to proceed? Said in the voice of Mr. Darcy. Yeah, that's better. That's better than, like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't like the dumb sounds that they make. Yeah.
All right, it's time for community mail time. Ari went to Edison, New Jersey to go to a charging legislation event. He drove for hours, and then he went there, and he let his voice be heard. And I think this is super duper important, okay? When you show up, you might think like, well, it's just one person. Okay, but if a few of you show up, then those politicians are like, wow, a few people showed up. And then if next time there's even more than a few people, and if you tweet it out and get it on your Facebook and let people know about it, and you bring some friends, it doesn't take that many people for a local politician to go, whoa.
Right. Show up and talk to them.
Yes.
And twist their arm and say, you better get out of charging infrastructure. You don't have to threaten them, obviously, but
check this out, Jesse.
Yeah?
Adam's dog is driving.
Wow, from the passenger seat, no less.
Yeah.
Telepathic dog, everybody.
Yep. All right, it's time for our on-air question. Craig has a question for us. It's, with V10 rolling out to full self-driving owners, can Tesla recognize some of that cash in their Q3 earnings report?
Yes, we just spoke with Gally from Hyperchange about it, and he said that Tesla will be able to claim some of the deferred revenue that they are holding as income for this quarter on their GAAP income statement. And so far, they've had $120 million per quarter deferred.
Right. So let me explain what that means.
Yeah.
You pay your full self-driving fee of $6,000, right? And they put it into an account, and they don't count it on their actual balance sheet because you paid for something that you didn't really get yet.
Right.
But as they roll out features for it, like version 10 has a bunch of features, according to GAAP accounting principles, they are allowed to start counting some of that income, and we don't know exactly how much, back towards their sheet.
And
so
that's going to really help their financial statement this quarter.
So, I mean, I wish I could give you a number. I don't know at the moment what that's going to be, but at least we have some idea. 120 million per quarter has been deferred, so that gives you some idea of what value they could then put back on their balance sheet at some point.
Yeah.
We'll be scouring those sheets with Gally to find out more.
Yes.
But now, anyway, if you want to find out more about this, there is a video from Gally from Hyperchange, a YouTube channel that we love, and the link is down below.
All right, so we had 2 polls this week. We're going to start out with the Taiga Orca, which is a fully electric jet ski. We said, are you excited about the Taiga Orca? And most people said,
I've gone my whole life without riding a jet ski, and I'm not going to start now just because it's electric. But I will say, a lot of people did say, yes, electric watercraft will change the conversation on the lake.
yeah, and not too many people thought it was too expensive, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the next poll question was, do you care about the recent Model S Plaid Porsche Taycan track results at Nürburgring Nordschleife? And most people said, no, not really, but I enjoy seeing them compete. All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews. What do we got this week?
Let's see.
Hello and welcome to the destination charger on the Isle of Wight. It's the Cow and Company Bar and Restaurant. As you can see, there are 2 destination chargers nicely set up just next to the restaurant. On site also is a farm shop. Obviously the green credentials of this site have to be borne in mind with the purpose of the farm, which is a dairy farm and beef cattle restaurant. So that's it, the Cow and Co Bar and Restaurant on the Isle of Wight.
Hi Zach, hi Jessie, here we are, it's Chrissy from sunny Shifnal Services here just outside Telford on the M54 in the UK. It's an 8-stall supercharger setup here. It's a small services, but it's well stocked with a Waitrose, a Burger King, a Starbucks and a pasty shop. We think this is probably worth about an 8 out of 10 purely because the actual services themselves are quite small. But a very good point to note, this is the last supercharger setup before you enter Wales. Now you know.
All right, so like 5 hours into the new Tesla Model 3, I've got a supercharger here in Greenville, Alabama, next to, I believe it's a Hampton with Cracker Barrel. And guess what? They just made fried chicken a regular item on their menu. Charged the Tesla and charged myself. Love it.
Fantastic. I love this part of the show. I love seeing you guys go
Keep
out there.
sending them in. I
Yes.
love them.
More
Just go-
destination chargers, please.
If you're wondering how to do it, you go to, first of all, you have to go to a supercharger or destination charger, shoot it in landscape, make it short and sweet and tell us all about it and give it stars from 1 to 10. Then go to our website and there's information on how you can upload it. It's really super duper easy and then it'll be live instantaneously.
Nice.
All right, there's a couple new superchargers this week. What do we got?
We have the 700th supercharger in the United States. It is the 6-stall, 150 kilowatt supercharger at Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
And we got number 701 in the USA, number 1632 in the world. It's an 8-stall, 150 kilowatt in Middletown, New York.
Nice.
All right, it's time for the Patreon giveaway. This is where if you support us on Patreon, you have a chance to win an EcoWear t-shirt like we're wearing today. Mine, I like, this is a new one. This is the supercharger, obviously.
Yep.
The earth behind it, and then just oil going down all around it. But it's perfectly unscathed because it is electric.
Interesting. I'm going to let you read the winner this week.
All right, the winner, Dion Ryan Kursakai. Congratulations. Did I get it right? Get back in there.
We'll have to see.
All right, so you just won an EcoWear t-shirt. Don't forget that we design it with solar energy. It's completely offset. So when you buy a tee, we plant a tree. All right, you made it to the end of the show.
Thank you so much for watching the entire thing. I have a past video that I want to share with everyone. It was an in-depth that I did all by myself.
What?
And it has a lot to do with Starship, kind of halfway.
You did an in-depth all by yourself?
Yeah, you were
Where was I?
You were in Europe.
Wow, and you had to do it by
We were
yourself.
off gallivanting in Europe, and we talked a lot about the same things that Elon was talking about, where the Earth, becoming enveloped by the sun, and how we need to leave.
Oh, that's
And,
right. You
yeah.
got really sad.
It was a little sad, but it has a hopeful aftertaste.
Does it?
So yeah, we'll put the right there. We'll do that right there. So yeah.
So you made it to the end of the show, and I just want to make sure that you're subscribing to the show. If you made it this far, you probably like the show. So subscribe to it, because what that helps us do is it helps us to grow the power of the show.
Yes,
and that's important.
It's your power, right?
Right.
We're not here selling you oil. We're not here selling you anything besides fully sustainable T-shirts. We're just here trying to make the world a better place by having everyone switch to electric cars. And what happens when you buy an electric car, is we've seen it before. It changes your mindset about everything.
Yes. Then you want an electric lawnmower.
Exactly. And when it's like you give a mouse a cookie, you give a moose a muffin, you give someone an electric car, and they're going to want to change the world.
Right.
That's just the way things work. And that's
Prove me wrong. Now,
yeah.
If you're watching right now and you drive an electric car and you're like, nope, I love oil companies and I miss going to the gas station, please comment below.
Right. I
doubt
have seen some of those people, but there are exceptions to everything.
I don't think I've met anyone who drives an electric car who's then still in favor of fossil fuels. I have yet to meet that person.
And again, we're just here to save the world. That's it.
Yes. So give us your subscribe click. Give us that, because it gives us a little bit more power, a little bit more stature when we reach out to people in the industry that we want to interview, new companies that we want to interview, to bring you that information. It just makes it all the easier for us to get that connection going and bring you information, because that's what we do all the time. We don't get paid by anybody but our Patreons here, basically, because YouTube doesn't practically pay us anything. That subscribe click is super important to us. So please click it if you can. Everyone can, right? There's no reason not to.
You do have to have a YouTube account.
You know another advantage of a YouTube account?
What?
Is that you can then upload videos to our Supercharger reviews.
That is one possible benefit. The other thing is that, like, you might log on to YouTube and you're just like, it's all this like crap of about fidget spinners and, whatever the kids are into these days. Yes, there's a lot of like 12-year-old eye-grabbing stuff where it's just like, I crashed my car, check it out, she broke up with me, all sorts of clickbaity crap. But when you make a YouTube account and you start watching things that you're interested in,
Get smarter.
It gets smarter. It builds into the algorithm, and you might be like, oh no, they're gonna know about me. And I guess that's true, but hey, they know about all of us, right? Can't be that bad, right? But obviously, take your freedoms if you want them. But I mean, it's really nice. I've found so many interesting things, so many interesting other channels to watch. And if you found us, congratulations. Without a YouTube account, congratulations. But yeah, it just makes it a whole lot easier.
Maybe they found us because they're driving an electric car now and they're searching for good content.
It could be, yeah. And so, yeah. Just subscribe. It can send you emails too if you're not like
and you know what?
Super computer geek.
You know how like your grandmother always sends you emails about stuff and you're like, Grandma, share this back with her.
That's true.
Give her something to watch for an hour.
Exactly.
And she'll start to get into the stuff you want her to get into.
Yes.
Anyway.
And then just because Thanksgiving's coming up,
Right.
you'll have something to talk about.
Oh, that's a good important point.
Yeah,
All right.
Start sharing this now with your families. So that way, by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, they'll stop bugging you and making fun of you about electric cars, because hopefully they'll be on the same page.
All right.
Thanks so much for watching.
Now you know.